Start your engines. We are going full gear today here on SCW, the 2022 show match card and predictions here on the channel here today. So, there's 12 matches to talk about in total. Literally everything is on the main show at the moment, nothing on the 0 hour. So, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest very shortly. But before we get into it, I should give you the match card that we'll be discussing here today. Quite a stacked looking lineup there for you. And I'll tell you what, this show going to be taking place in New Jersey. So without further ado, let's get someone quite local. It's the one, the only Rated R For Rasslin. Anthony, how are you doing?
What's up, Steve? I'm doing wonderful. As you said, I'm in New Jersey and I'm going to be attending that show live. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you again, Steve, for having me on your channel. It's always the best.
Oh, it's great to have you here and do some fantastic work on your channel. By the way, if anyone hasn't subscribed, make sure to do so. Go to Rated R For Rasslin, have the wrestling report each and every weekend. It's a fantastic lineup of all the wrestling news that is out there. You do other topical videos as well from WWE and AEW.
Yes, sir. They're sporadic in nature, but they come out. And when they do, they're pretty good. So everybody check them out.
Absolutely, you shouldn't miss them. The link is in the description of Anthony's channel, so make sure to check out Rated R For Rasslin. Before we start going into anything though in major detail, first question I have for you here today is, you're actually going to be there live in the 10th, so I guess I know the answer. What are you looking forward to more, the actual show or the media scrum?
I'm gonna say the show because live, but if it was at home, it'd be the media scrum. If I was watching it at home, that's what I'd be most anticipating.
I think TK is going to be nervous this time round on the media scrum massively, but he's doing one as we speak today, so I'd be interested to see what questions he's thrown out on that one. But big shout out to Richard Robes in the chat, as well as to Sweet Carl as well from the On the Mark Wrestling podcast. Let's go indeed. Before we go into the predictions though, Anthony, what match are you looking forward to the most on this show?
For me, it's got to be the world title match, just because I hope it's like MJF's final crowning moment. And I think this pay-per-view, to me, with everything that's transpired after All Out, feels like a transition period for AEW. And they're really going to, hopefully coming out of this, really jumpstart the company up again and get it back to where it was pre-All Out.
I think you make a fantastic point there. Like you say, from everything that came from that media scrum from All Out, from that overshadowed what was that show as well, we've kind of had to hit a massive reset button from then to now. And like you said, we've had some filler episodes of Dynamite and Rampage, not to the certain standards we've been used to. This show hopefully can even everything out. And like you said, we can start afresh, heading into Revolution, heading into a brand new year in 2023. But one of the causes of that media scrum was the Elite. If you've been checking out some previous streams earlier in the week that's been done earlier before Dynamite, no one's talked about this because it was announced last night on Dynamite. And the first match we're going to talk about, the Elite is back. That's right. They'll be taking on Death Triangle for the AEW Trios Championships. Now, of course, Death Triangle, what I liked about this, Pac on the microphone saying, I'm not dumb. We watched the show. We know what's been going on. We know they're going to come out. Have they got the guts to show up to this show? Then it came up with the graphic there. We've had all this AEW stuff going on as well, where we've been teasing them coming back. What have you felt about the build-up with this?
I thought it was solid. I mean, because they have a lot of baggage technically with them, right? Because of what happened, and not all the full information is not, all out there. You don't know exactly what happened, but they have a lot of baggage with them. So I thought it was a smart way to do it. And it's for the live crowd at the event, and you want to have that big pop. So you don't want to debut them too early. You want to have them right at the right moment to really get that pop and really show it off to people watching at home, people that are live. The Elite is the first time you're seeing them since everything happened. And maybe you want to avoid a lot of the promos where they'll kind of dabble into, pull back the curtain a little bit promos. So I think maybe they want to stay away from that a little bit before they debut and come back.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout there. Like you're saying, obviously being in attendance, will you give them that monster pop when they come through the curtain?
I'm a tough one, right? Like, I don't pop that much. But yeah, probably.
Yeah, if there's a markout moment, that could be one of them
That
on the
could be
show,
it.
certainly. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. Obviously, it felt like for a little while we were going to go through the White Rabbit treatment with these guys coming back, but it seems to have been now where they're just going to be coming back into the show. I think it's the right placement. I do think this show was lacking a little bit of star power before this match was announced, so I'm glad they're coming back. I think it's going to be interesting how they come back to AEW TV. Obviously, was lucky to be a guest on your wrestling report just recently. We discussed about the idea of them coming back, and we said about the video packages, how the AEW always came up and was taking away all their accomplishments, and the first letter that always went from the AEW was the E. Like, is the elite gone from All Elite Wrestling, and what is AEW without the E? And I like that idea. Could this just be where the elite could come back in, and this actually is more of a tease towards a hillside further down? You get the Monster Pop on night one. Maybe they're the ones that cheat in the match, and then they win the championships, and then we kind of go full circle where we were meant to be at All Out, and then they go forward with those titles and then do whatever they're going to do in AEW.
I totally agree, because you remember when Jericho made one of his returns in WWE, he was there to save WWE from, I guess it was Randy Orton or whatever the case was. So it could be similar to that they're trying to save. They're coming back to save AEW and bring the elite back into All Elite Wrestling, and that could be something they play off of for weeks on end in terms of where their characters are headed, depending on if they win this match or they don't. Now, I think the most interesting thing going into this match is, do you have them win it back immediately that same night? That's a bit of a coin toss right there, because you have what you de facto kind of interim trios champions in Death Triangle, right? Because they won them, because they got suspended. So it's kind of one of those things. So that's interesting as well. But I think they should play that up. The fact that they are the elite, that is their name and everything like that. And the name of the company says it itself, All Elite Wrestling. They could definitely play that up into whatever they're going to, kind of delve into as their characters evolve going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that'd be a very clever move, how they can play that into the narrative of the story. Obviously, Death Triangle have their own narrative going on as well, with Pac saying, we need to cheat to win. We need to be a bit more clever, gents. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's especially with the All Atlantic Championship, we had 2-pack going at one point. Now he's just 1-pack once again. I tried to get a 6-pack once. It didn't kind of work out for me very well, but too much beer. It's very tough, very tough business. But anyway, getting to the point, I just wonder that if the elite were to come back and they were to be heels going forward, I don't want to say they could be like NWO like, but if it's kind of like you try to take everything away from what this company was, trying to blur the lines a little bit, try and bring a bit of realism of what did happen into the storyline, I think people would find it a bit gritty and actually would be quite invested in what they're doing going forward if they were starting to try to take over the company, if you will.
I agree. People like that, right? They love, seeing the curtain pulled back a little bit and getting a peek backstage. I mean, that used to be all the craze back in, the 90s, the 2000s. We were always trying to find out what was going on backstage. And I think they should play up and bring it up or dabble in it as they go along.
Absolutely, indeed there. Well, let's go into the comments and then we'll give our predictions. In fact, actually, the first comment comes from Two Sweet Cole, who's asking us outright. It's got to be the elite, right? Let's give him the prediction. Is it going to be the elite?
I think it has to be, right? Because you held them out this whole time. You're gonna get the massive pop and kind of like the homecoming for them, even though they're not from New Jersey, but the homecoming for them coming back to AEW after what happened. I feel like it depends on too where it takes place in the card. Do you start the show off with this match? What do you do with it? And if it starts off the show, I mean, you're really going to have the crowd in a bad mood if you have the elite finally come back and they don't win these titles, which they never lost. So I think they have to win.
True. Yeah. That's very true. I think you're on the money there. Like you said, a result can really affect the arena sometimes, and this would be the right result to give. If Death Triangle go and win here, and I think there's more good narrative you can get out of this with Death Triangle losing. We mentioned Pac trying to say, you guys should have cheated. Why didn't you do that? Do Death Triangle then all fully fledged and turn heel themselves? Do Penta and Phoenix listen? Or do they say, no, Pac, you're the reason that you let us down because you tried to cheat. That was the loophole, caused a bit of friction, and we get a breakup of Death Triangle.
Well, I would go with the breakup of Death Triangle if the trios, because the trios is a full-fledged division, has its own title. You need enough teams in that division. I'm sure AEW can hodgepodge a bunch of trio teams together, but this is one of the mainstay trios that's been there for a while. I would be inclined to say yes. Break up the team after a heel turn, have them infight, and the matches you would get between Pac versus Phoenix, Pac versus Penta would be amazing. But I think they just need to have that division hefty, with enough people there, enough teams to make those titles worthwhile.
Absolutely. My last question for you, before we go just into the other comments that we've got, I would say very quickly, what about House of Black? Is there an opportunity they could return at some point, and they would be quite worthy challengers to go next for those titles?
Yeah, definitely. But this is my issue with AEW is their spread apart pay-per-view system and how many months in between pay-per-view. Sometimes you want to have that team come back and have their match at pay-per-view. But if House of Black is like the most logical, makes the most sense team to face the Elite coming after out of the Death Triangle if they would do win the titles. But I would like it for it to be in a pay-per-view because it's just a pay-per-view match. But with the way their schedule is, I don't think it's going to work out that way. But if you look at it, other than Cassidy and the Best Friends, you have Death Triangle, you have House of Black when they come back. There's not a ton of trios that are legitimate enough to stand up against the Elite, which is one of those things where you create new titles, you put it on a massive team like the Elite. It makes total sense because now the titles are super important. But you got to have teams worthy enough to beat a top tier team like the Elite.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be fascinating to see how it's going to work out with everything, and I think this is going to be one of the big matches to kick things off. Richard Robinson's thrown a comment, not related to this match at the moment, but he's got his early prediction: Jon Moxley will beat MJF due to a referee screw job, and after the match, Regal turns on Mox after the match. That's an interesting one there. We'll be talking about as our main event of this stream. So that'll be the main event we'll be talking about. Shout out to Noob and Co, by the way. He says hello in the house, and also going to say, I thought the Elite was erased from wrestling history, but I'm glad that they are back. It felt like they were going to be for a short time, but not quite the case. Richard Rose again, Death Triangle will win. Then the Embassy, Powerhouse Hobbs, and the new recruiting member, Colt Cabana, will win it. It's an interesting trio there. Richard, our usual regular troll, throwing in a troll comment, I feel. West Coast Podcast. These Elite vignettes look like TK trying to figure out Adobe. Love seeing you guys together. Thank you, West Coast Podcast. Hope you are doing well. It's great to always have you in the chat as well.
Yep.
Too Sweet Carl says, Pac maybe finally turns on them or the Lucha Bros turn on him. Which one would you prefer if one was to turn on the other?
I think Lucha Bros on Pac because, if you have Pac turn on, it's going to be weird because you have 1v2 and then you're not going to want to break up the Lucha Bros because that's a mainstay tag team that you need. Yeah. So I think it has to be those two turning on Pac. And then, but the problem is that Pac turns into the babyface if he does. Right. If you attack Pac, he's kind of de facto the good guy coming out of it. So that's kind of a weird one. But it's a 2v1. So logically, it makes sense for Luchas to turn on Pac.
Yeah, I think the only other way you could do it, perhaps maybe if, like you said, Puck being the heel, maybe if he has the hammer that he usually has for the ring bell, attacks one of them, and as the other tries to make the save, either he gets both of them or he does the run, and that way he gets away and maybe, say, for example, Penta's out for a little bit, and then he's 1-on-1 against Phoenix until Penta comes back. That's the only way around you can do it. But like you say, it's going to be interesting how it's going to play out, but we think it's going to happen. Too Sweet Carl says, House of Black need a run after the Elite, in his opinion. I think that's a fair shout. That does seem a very credible team to do so. We've got Spirit Planes. Elite should not win the titles. Kelly should go back to singles. Buck should go back to tag team division. Fair comment. I think it's a very fair comment. Maybe they'll go for everything. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, they could. I mean, I think, they've pigeonholed themselves into the spot because they created those trio titles. They didn't need to create the trio titles. They didn't really have to, but they chose to. So you're kind of in a spot where, like, you kind of have to give it to them to make the division feel important.
Let's get the comments come off. There we go. Too Sweet Carl says, I definitely agree. Lucha's turn on Pac, so it's a favor of that way. And also a favor of this way. Noob and Co says, I got Lucha Bros turn on Pac because he's using the hammer ever since he dropped the All-Atlantic title to Orange Cassidy. Freshly squeezed and sadly not currently on the show. But maybe that will change on the 0 hour. We'll have to wait and see. We've got a Rampage to go through first. But what we've got to go through is quite a number of other matches. Are we ready to go for match number 2?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it indeed. It's going to be for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The trilogy is complete after this one. The AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Acclaimed, going against Swerve in Our Glory. Now, forgive me, Anthony, but of course, we're very early in the stream. I don't want to make this rated R too quickly, but can we get yourselves and the chat to scissor me daddy-o?
There it is.
There it is. There it is indeed. There we go. We get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. But to be fair, the Acclaimed are one of my favorite things to watch on AEW TV.
Yes.
The AEW, there we go. I know I've come back now. They're one of my favorite things to watch the Acclaimed each and every week. The raps are always so creative. I enjoyed the music video this week on Swerve and Our Glory. I love the twists and turns all about this rivalry. The trilogy has played out so much better than I thought it would do. I love the fact we've got Swerve as the heel going forward. Keith Lee, will he turn heel? Will he stay face? And I like as well this other little nugget that we've been given on Dynamite this week. Swerve actually attacking Bowen's shoulder. Always says that he gets injured, lets the team down. I like that that's going to play into the narrative here. We've had Billy Gunn that's been attacked in a Hayter Michael Cole situation as well, with his scissors being taken away. It's been everything in this feud. I've really enjoyed it. I think this has been one of the really high spots of AEW this past couple of months.
I agree too, and it's felt very organic the way it's come down, right? Because you saw everybody get behind the Acclaimed during that first match, that pay-per-view match, and then boo the result of Swerve and Our Glory winning it, and then you get the crescendo coming at the Grand Slam show where they win the titles finally. It's been really well done, really put together. I just feel like coming out of this, I think that you have to break up Swerve and Our Glory. You have to get Keith Lee into a meaningful singles run. You can jumpstart him by eventually, after this, them losing this match, I assume that they will, is breaking up Swerve and Our Glory and having Keith Lee as babyface, Swerve as a heel, and then having them in a program, and hopefully that can jumpstart Keith Lee into, the main title picture, or even just the TNT title picture.
I mean, looking at this is an unpredictable match. I would say it can go either way, but I've got two single stars there in Swerve and Our Glory, and Keith Lee for me is someone that should be pushed near towards the top of that card. He is amazing, but Swerve has really come into his own as a heel. I've been loving his work of late. Like I said, Heidenreich bit aside there with Billy Gunn. I think that his facials, his attitude, his demeanor, Swerve has got a lot of things that tick a lot of boxes where he could be a top heel in the company.
Yeah, he could. He definitely could. He feels like he's just a natural heel, right? He just feels like it, the way his mannerisms, the way he moves around, stuff like that. He feels like a just natural born heel, whereas Keith Lee feels like a natural born good guy. So I think that's where like you have the difference between the two. Plus, it's again one of those things. You have two singles guys, you kind of mash them together, make a tag team out of it. It's one of those things. If they're able to jumpstart either one of them into a serious title contender after this, it'll help soothe that kind of notion that AEW doesn't really know what to do with guys that they bring in. They start them off hot and then they kind of just fall off. This may be kind of something to quell that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good. See a success story. There's been so many prime examples with people that have come in that have not succeeded in AEW. We can use the likes of Andrade. There's lots of people that are coming from WWE. These are two guys that were in WWE, and I want to see a success story. And particularly with someone like Keith Lee, like Swerve, they are two great talents, and they're showing a lot here. The tag teams work really, really well, but has it had its full mind of the coin very quickly? I wanted to ask you, what if Keith Lee did turn heel? Would it be something that would be interesting for you?
It would, but it's just one of those guys. He's a monster. He's got to be a monster, right? He's a monster heel. He's got to destroy everybody, and those guys are tough if you don't have that good guy to kind of foil them and really get the beat downs from the heel and then come from underneath and win it. So I don't think AEW has anybody like that. Have to be somebody. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that are smaller than him, but I don't think they have that kind of baby face to take him on for you to actually care. I think if he's a heel, he's got to be a monster. He's got to destroy everybody. He's too big to be kind of like what they call a chicken shit heel and kind of falling back all the time, not wanting to fight. He's too big. He doesn't have the look for it. I think he's got to be a monster if he does turn heel. But to me, he looks too much like kind of like is a little bit too much of a teddy bear look to him. So that's why I always say that he's kind of like just a natural born good guy. And I don't think he could probably pull it off, but I don't think he's well suited to be the heel.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I prefer him to remain babyface. I think the interest of that is there, but I don't know if it would work in execution. That's my concern with it. But we'll have to wait and see. But we'll go to a prediction anyway. Acclaim versus Swerve in Our Glory.
I gotta go with the Acclaimed, right? I think I have to because I don't think you could drop the titles right back to this team because this team feels like they're on their wits' ends and it's already leading to that crescendo where the team's going to break up and go on their separate paths, either together in a feud or separate away from each other. It's got to be the Acclaimed here. They're super, super over still. Now can they stay over as they are? That's we'll wait and see. But I think they have to win here because I don't think the crowd's gonna be too happy, especially the fickle crowd that's gonna be there in New Jersey that night. It's not gonna be super happy if they just drop the titles back to Swerve and Our Glory.
Yeah, it's almost like the same as the last match.
Yeah.
We have to keep the fans happy. We have to know that that's what the right result is. And I agree with you. The Acclaimed here should pick up the victory, in my personal opinion. I think we're building to them versus FTR long term because of the fact that we were teasing that on a Dynamite match in an 8-man tag just recently. I wouldn't be surprised if FTR and the Arse Boys was a 0-hour match, probably added to the show last minute. But at the same time, I think that's a long-term destination. So for now, I'd have the Acclaimed win. And yes, I do think that, like you said at the start, they're separate ways.
Yeah. It's a shame FTR will be on the 0-hour show. That's a shame.
That would be a shame. But then there's already so many more matches. How many more could we get on there?
Yes.
Nubiko says this is the most entertaining feud between the Acclaimed and Lee and Swerve. It's really been fun. Really, really enjoyed it. Richard Robes, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't quite understand some of that comment there for you with Eddie Edwards being featured there. But Nubiko says it's a big mistake. WWE released Lee and Swerve only to make a big deal in AEW. Well, I mean, what could be WWE's loss could be AEW's gain.
Which we haven't, we've seen some of that. It's been kind of hit or miss, right? When they get guys that are WWE releases, they don't really know a ton to do with them. I still think Keith Lee, especially with Mia Yim coming back to WWE, needs to go back to WWE.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see that at some point further down the line. I mean, obviously, I don't know how long Keith Lee's under contract, but we'll have to wait and see. Well, I tell you what. The meantime, then, and we've been talking about AEW to this point. Let's go. Is the Ring of Honor World Championship, the Fatal 4-Way, Chris Jericho, The Old Show against Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. Now, my first question to you, Anthony, is going to be, shouldn't Daniel Garcia be in this spot instead of Sammy Guevara? What's going on here?
Definitely should. He's not even defending the Pure title, right?
No,
she's not. So it doesn't make any sense. It's odd, unless they're planning to kind of get Sammy out of the the Jericho Appreciation Society for this move coming in here. He seems out of place. If you're looking at it logically with continuity.
No, I would agree. I do feel that we've had the whole story of Bryan Danielson and along with Daniel Garcia, Jericho that was playing the freeway for a good couple of months. Now, Daniel Garcia, I've not seen it. Maybe he's injured or something. Is there anything that I'm missing?
I haven't heard anything about him being injured.
No, it could be interesting to see what happens on the night of the show. But what I will say is that this is a Fatal 4-Way. Sammy's been put in the spot. He's never let Jericho down. I did like that little nugget of the story. Could there be a point in this match?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I was just asking if there could be a moment in this match where Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara could go face-to-face and blow to blow.
Well, I know they're going to tease it a bunch, right? It's probably a bunch of those spots where, Claudio and Bryan Danielson are outside of the ring and then they come face to face and they're like, you kind of get teases here and there. But I think if they do eventually, which they're going to have to, because it's going to be tough to work a match like that with two guys that never touch each other, could they be teased maybe like the breakup of that? Because I feel like Jericho Appreciation Society has kind of run its course. It's not as fun as the Inner Circle was and kind of one of those things you never wanted to see end, but Jericho Appreciation Society does have that going for it, that it's something that kind of feels like it's run its course and seems like it should be ending sooner rather than later. And maybe this is how they get to it. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be tough for them to work a match where these two guys just never come blow to blows legitimately. So I think it's going to eventually, it has to happen.
I think so eventually. I mean, the other question will be with the Blackpool Combat Club as well. I mean, what can happen with them? I mean, even as a rivalry, though, this seems to me like it will continue over the Final Battle probably because that Ring of Honor have that show in December 10th. So I guess this is probably going to play into that. But it feels like we've seen the BCC and the JAS going for far too long now.
Yes, it's far too long. And Blackpool Combat Club for me, ever since Claudio got thrown in there, it's been kind of a downhill for me going, from that point on. And I think it's nothing against Claudio. I just think he just didn't really mix with the rest of them, and it just didn't look right. Like I always say, he looks too. He's too like prototypical, like professional wrestler, like what a wrestler probably should look like compared to everybody else in the crew. So I think that's what kind of throws it off. But yeah, both of these teams I think have ran their course. I honestly think that they've ran their course, and maybe AEW needs to go away from factions a little bit going forward and not have so many, because I think all the years of having these factions over and over again is kind of come to an end.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it could freshen things up by just not having as many of them going on, or certainly freshening up the groups. Because I mean, for me, I've got a problem with the JAS, but I just feel that like you say, it doesn't have the same buzz as what we had with the Inner Circle. That there was a different vibe with that group. It was a lot more exciting, a lot more fresh, a lot more innovative. Feels like that this at the start, the Sports Entertainers did work with the Appreciate Us and stuff like that. But I feel the group has just got oversaturated with too many members. I think that can be part of the problem. I agree with you of the Blackpool Combat Club. Claudio, for me, like when we had Wheeler Yuta come in the group, he was like the young up and comer wrestler that they wanted to get. They wanted to get the Lee Moriartys, the Daniel Garcias. Claudio, it's like a veteran for like 20 years. Like that's not an up and comer. So it did, like you said, it kind of ruined a little bit of what the vibe was about what that group was. But I do feel that we'll talk about more about the Blackpool Combat Club as the night or as the stream progresses. But I've got a feeling to say this will carry over the final battle. And I feel that the long-term goal, again, I'm going to go into a prediction here. I think that Jericho is going to be a part of that main event of Final Battle. Is the selling point of this pay-per-view. It's why he's going to be my prediction. But he lost to Claudio in the tag team match. In a one-on-one environment, Claudio can beat Jericho. In a fatal four-way, he can't. I wonder if it may not just be the JS that could clash. We could get some BCC getting in the way here as well. I think that we're going to get Jericho retain here. Him and Claudio will be definitely a final battle. Bryan Danielson will probably be on that show as well, whether it's against Guevara or Daniel Garcia for the Pure Championship. We'll have to wait and see how they'll go along. But that'll be my final pick here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jericho is going to come out on top because he's going to be the flag bearer for ROH, just like he was for AEW. He was the first champion for AEW, and he's going to be the kind of de facto first champion for ROH in this new iteration of ROH. I think they keep the title on him for that reason and that reason alone. It's perfect for a heel like Jericho to have a fatal four-way for that title because he can really sneak in the win here, right? It can be some schmozzy thing going on and maybe some issues between Claudio and Danielson that creates his opportunity, hit a code breaker, win the match or something like that. I think there's going to be multiple things coming out of this. Yes, it's going to lead all to final battle. That's the end game. That's the end goal. That's the finality. What's called final battle, right? To get to that point with Jericho as your top guy, it just feels like, I don't know. Right now, ROH has that stigma where whoever is in AEW gets thrown into the ROH side of things, kind of feels left out and kind of forgotten, like a forgotten toy. That's what it feels like. So hopefully coming out of this match, they can have a hell of a match and really excite everybody for ROH going forward. And we could see like the end of two factions coming out of this match.
We really could. I mean, obviously, we've seen the friction with Danielson and Wheeler Yuta as well.
Yes.
Just thinking about that, that could be a destination for Final Battle as well if there does continue conflict with the Blackpool Combat Club. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how it's going to all play out. And Nubika also goes to say it's an odd choice having an RH title in an AEW pay-per-view with an RH title being defended at Final Battle, which, of course, will happen in December. So, obviously, this looks to be, like we said, the tee-up to what we'll probably get at that show. It's going to be very interesting here with that. But let's wait and see what will go along. But I mean, one final question I'll ask you. Obviously, we spoke about this on the Wrestling Report before, but Ring of Honor, should AEW find a way to make it a bit more separate from AEW? Is it a bit too much cluster, too much going on the same show?
Yeah, it feels like kind of like a benign mole on the body of AEW. That's what it feels like right now, right? Like it just feels like something that you just need to kind of chop off, leave it alone, and let it be its own thing out there. It feels like it's just kind of tagging along, and I think that's what creates that stigma of guys that come into AEW or are in AEW and get saddled with the ROH stuff that they feel less important. Even guys like Chris Jericho, I mean, he's like one of the top stars in the company. He still feels less important. I think that's hurt JAS in the process. Yeah, they got to get a YouTube show or something to kind of separate these two things, because just like how NXT and WWE aren't like, yeah, now they're referenced more because Triple H is kind of running the ship, but they always felt kind of separate from each other. And you can pick and choose which one you like better than the other. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree with you. And like you say, when you look at it with NXT, like yes, it was the Survivor Series a couple of years ago. They were all on the same show, but they are literally kept as separate brands. And I think that would help AEW more. I think there's too much Forbidden Door stuff. We've got was it DDT going to be involved on Rampage this upcoming week? We've had New Japan, we've had Impact, we've had Ring of Honor. It's some indie titles have been brought in from other places as well. I think Revolution Pro Wrestling, I think one of their titles have been shown on the station as well. So it's just a lot under one roof. So I think it would help the company, and I think that would definitely make fans feel a bit at ease, and also make your own championships feel more important.
That is true. They would feel more important, and I have to agree with you with the fact that they show too many titles from other companies on their show, because it becomes confusing for the average person to see that and be like, I don't even know what that title is they're holding. Is that part of AEW? Is that something else? That's not a good look for AEW. Keep everything separate and leave the Forbidden Door stuff for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view once a year. Because then it makes it more special. You're waiting for that pay-per-view. When is Forbidden Door this year? Oh, it's going to be this month. I can't wait because they're going to team up with all these different companies and have a big schmoz going on in the ring of different companies, stuff like that. And with ROH being separate, I mean, obviously it's kind of, Fugazi kind of way of doing it. Like, oh, the Forbidden Door ROH is coming, even though they're the same company, but you can still kind of play it off that way in storyline purposes.
I like that. And to make Forbidden Door like the one night a year, like it's Survivor Series of AEW. Amazing.
Yes, exactly.
We've got some creative ideas going on here, and we've got some creative stuff going on in the chat as well. First off, big shout out to C Nation. A dog in the house as well says, Rated R For Rasslin is back. He is indeed. It's great to have him here on the stream. Our regular troll Richard Robes is at it again. We're not going to throw him up, Richard. Just going to throw it out there. We'll try and keep him on point if you can, please. But we'll put the best of them because otherwise we're willing to flop the stream quite a bit. C Nation says the Elite are going to become the first ever 2-time AEW Trios champions. We have already spoken about the match, and yes, we do agree. MJF is winning the AEW World Championship because he's 2 over. C Nation, you have to wait for that one from us. We will be talking about that a little bit later on. It'll be our main event of this stream. And C Nation also going to say, even Impact Wrestling do not overshow other promotion titles. AEW need to learn from that. And to be fair, Impact do a lot of Forbidden Door stuff themselves. So very interesting. But sometimes, Anthony, AEW have 2 of the same champion in one company.
Yes. Doesn't make much sense.
No, it doesn't. But we're going to talk about it. Jade Cargill against Nyla Rose for the TBS Championship. This almost feels like it needs to be a Razor Shawn moment with a ladder involved at this point. I think it's the only thing that can save it. I'm going to keep this short and brief if you don't mind, because I feel for me, this has not worked on a lot of different levels. Yes, okay, Nyla Rose has taken the championship. That seems to be fun and creative in its own way. But Jade as a group, she's a stable. Surely that stable should be able to get that belt back. I know that Nyla has Vicky Guerrero and who's the other girl that's been with her recently? Roddy Strong's wife.
Oh, Maria Shafir, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, she had that protection a little bit, but Jade should still be getting that championship back. It shouldn't be that much effort to get it back. The commentary over Jade's match was quite awful for the ears to listen to, and I speak as a fan, but I think I don't speak alone on this. I think Jade Cargill's undefeated streak, where it's a long, dragged out thing, people are starting to get tired of it. I think that it's too predictable at this point. There's no way Nyla Rose wins this match, in my opinion. Jade is like a top star. I think the TBS Championship is starting to harm her reign to get higher up the card because they don't have to get the belt off of her. I think we need to start getting weekly Jade Cargill matches, more competition where it's like, can she get to number 50 in that reign? To the point where it's like closer and closer each and every time where someone then beats her for that championship, whether it's like, I don't know, a Jamie Hayter or someone like that. Or you get to the point where she says, I'm above this. I'm going for the AEW Women's World Championship. So that's my feelings, my frustration on this. It's not click for me at all, but I am going for Jade Cargill to win.
Yeah, these 2 title things really only work if one person never lost that title kind of thing. Like just like Shawn, right? Like he goes away, then you have Razor Champion. So like they have the separate titles, right? If one person steals that title, then it's not really 2 titles. It's just this person's just holding it, this my title, whatever. So that doesn't really work. It should have been something that kind of ended quicker than what we're getting. It's been drawn out a while that she stole the title. It's been, over a month or so of that. It's a kind of a campy storyline, doesn't really work that well and shouldn't be dragged out this long. Jade Cargill, on the other hand, yeah, she definitely needs to move on and move from this. Maybe I would say, I think honestly, the undefeated streak needs to end when she finally goes for the main AEW Women's Championship, kind of like a humbling moment for her. She's obviously very cocky, very physically imposing. Honestly, you look at anybody, nobody should actually beat her if you look at it logically. If you were to look at it from far out, nobody on the women's roster can actually physically beat her or should beat her if you're looking at it realistically. So I think she needs to be as cocky as possible and have that hubris kind of cost her that match. Not only does it cost her winning the women's title, but it also costs her at the same time her undefeated streak. And it could be a really big humbling moment for her and a big character development moment that you can capitalize on and have her not to be so one-dimensional and kind of have her branch out a little bit.
I love that idea. I have not thought of when the right person should do it, whether they just beat her for a championship, but for actually when she goes for the AEW Women's World Championship, I like that because that could create sympathy and a babyface if she transitions the right way from it,
Yes.
and you can get a real top star from that. I think it's a really clever idea. I think that's amazing. So, but looking at it, it's not going to happen here, is it?
No, definitely not. Jade Cargo for the win. That's it.
I may be jaded when it comes to this storyline, but
Oof.
jaded is how it will finish. We'll quickly go into the comments section and see what everybody has got to see. Sinish says, "I'm sorry, I didn't have to. You don't have to wait to share your predictions, but we will wait to share ours if you don't mind. We need to keep people enticed for the main event. But at the same time, what we've got here as well. Sinish says, Nyla Rose is an AEW TBS champion. She stole the belt. She did steal the belt, but she's claiming to hold that championship at this particular moment. It's what we like to call a very awkward storyline.
Yes,
Noob and Co says this match is going to be borderline terrible because the comedy is bad and Jade needs to be on TV weekly. Do we see enough Jade on TV?
No, I think should be showcased a little bit more on Dynamite. It doesn't, her run and what she's doing doesn't none of it really feels that important. I think that's the problem. And either she needs to be on TV more or less, or on a certain show and not in the other show.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that I feel recently we've seen a bit more on Dynamite, but I feel that Jade's always been on the Rampage side
stuff,
of things,
yeah.
and it's like a lot of her matches then get like 2 or 3 minutes, and I don't think that helps things either. So I'd like to see a bit more because I think she's got a lot to give. She's had some great reigns and some great matches. She's had a few matches that have not been great either, but she's still very new to the game, and I think yes, we've been waiting for the right time to branch her further out, but I think that time is coming. I think patience from fans is starting to wear thin. It's time to see if she will sink or swim leading a division. And like we said, maybe she could be humbled that first time around, but she's certainly got everything in her arsenal to lead a division.
Definitely.
Yes, indeed. Sination says AEW need to stop the interim crap. We'll be talking about that very shortly. I don't care about Tony Storm and Johnny Hayter. It's not for the real AEW Women's World Title. Interesting take, that one there. And we've got, if you thought Jay Cargill's reign is boring, Camille from NWA is 100 times worse than ever. She can't drop that title until forever. Maybe Camille versus Jay Cargill in the future.
Could be. I mean, something. Forbidden Door.
Forbidden Door. There we go. Forbidden Door. We're getting it in there somewhere. Tino Simon House, he's just come off his live stream as well, doing AEW Full Gear predictions. So make sure to check that out after this stream as well. Tino, thank you for stopping by. As well, we've got C Nation says Jay Cargill vacates the AEW TBS Championship for a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship. It'd be similar to Option C, which Impact Wrestling do. Of course, they do their X Division title, give up one title to get a world title shot. Would that be something you'd be into in AEW? Or do you think that actually cheapens the TBS Championship?
Yeah, that's kind of a double-edged sword right there, that question, right? So, yes, it definitely does cheapen that secondary championship. But again, it is a secondary. So it is supposed to be a stepping stone to get to that next one. So I think it's good and it's bad. It depends on what the status of that championship you're vacating is at. If it's at a bottom level, low importance, then I don't think you should do it because it makes it only worse. If you have it built up to a certain level, then I think you can get away with it.
So that's a very good argument you make there. I mean, obviously, the X Division title and Impact, by the way, it's got a lot of lineage behind it, so it doesn't hurt it. This title's still in its infancy, I would say. I mean, Jade is still the original champion. She's never been beaten for it. So it does feel a little bit like that, even though it's been a long, lengthy, strong reign, maybe it needs someone to beat her for that title. But still, though, that is a way to get the belt off of her without her being defeated. So, C Nation, do you like the creativity for it? That's definitely certainly something. This week, Carl, this TBS champ is featured more on TNT than TBS. That's a good point you're making there. Yeah, she's on the wrong channel.
Yes, definitely is. Because it seems like Rampage seems to be more on TNT, right?
Yeah, Rampage on TNT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's when I think these days usually people do check it out, which I think is going down in numbers a lot recently. And NWA usually have long-term champions. Let's hope that's not the case then for Tyrus. I've kept that short and sweet there for you. But yeah, we'll move on in the meantime then. We're going to go to match 5, and this one could spark a bit of debate, I think. It is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, against Saraya. Saraya, of course, has been cleared to return to action. And, well, it's great to see her back. That's the first thing I'm going to say. But she said this is her house. She got reminded very quickly by Britt Baker, this is not her house. This is the place that she built. It's the place that she was the champion for a long time. She was the person that was the plucky newcomer that only been on TV for 3 years, but she did it in Daily's place during the pandemic where, there was nothing to give anybody. She was in the ring, something that Saraya would know nothing about. There's been 2 promos here from Britt Baker where I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like the dynamic has completely switched. because Saraya came in, she made the big deal of coming in, star power name, but it almost feels like she needs to go heel immediately because Britt Baker's owned her on the mic.
Yes, and I call back to the last episode of the Wrestling Report where Jonesy brought up the fact that she says it's her house, but playing off her WWE stuff and kind of belittling AEW in the process, right?
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up when I first watched it, but when he explained it to me, then I started to realize that it does make sense that happened, and I agree with you. But the problem is that how do you turn her a heel if everybody's so excited about her coming back? That's like kind of one of the weird spots that you're in. Can you just pull a complete 180 and have her first match is immediately be her heel turn? I think it'll work. And I think honestly, it's one of those things is like she has been better on the mic than Saraya, but Saraya has been kind of falling back on that trope that everybody uses when they come back from something, the injury. I've tried so hard to come back and I'm finally back. And I think that's very a one-dimensional approach, but it's easy to do because it's real, it's obvious, and it makes sense. But in terms of a wrestling promo, that's why I think Britt's been on top of her and bested her because she's relying on that one thing where Britt's a little bit more well-rounded in the promo.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost become like a AEW versus WWE rivalry,
Yes.
which is what's going to get people to side with Baker on this. But you are right when you say with Saraya, like she's got that on an advantage. You imagine when the match kicks in, if you're going to have Saraya as the babyface, then Britt Baker as the heel surely has to target the injured area. That's where the story would build up. But if there is a case, and this is where I'm going to throw a little bit devil's advocate, if you could do a Saraya heel turn on night one or really complete the double turn, what if Saraya realizes she can't get the job done? It's not really her house. She realizes this is a different generation, a different crop of talent that she needs to cheat to win.
I think that's perfect. To be honest with you, that's perfect because it makes so much more. It makes so much sense, right? She's been playing up. It's her house. It's her house. She's the veteran. She's been in the game for 30 some odd years, and whatever how many years professionally. It makes total sense. The problem is like, can Britt be a baby face, right? Is she geared that way to be a baby face with her style and the way she is? That's a tough ask. But if she's able to target her neck, Baker targeting Saraya's neck, and then that causing her to realize, you know what? Not only am I not the person I used to be physically, but also I'm in a completely new area, completely new place, and I don't think I can. It's her admitting to her flaws at that point and what she can, her limitations. So that might be a good thing if you're able to kind of play that off through the visuals of the match and then elaborate more on that in subsequent weeks on promos.
Absolutely, because you've got something to come out of the pay-per-view with rather than just a simple babyface versus heel, babyface wins, then we go off and where do we go next? I do think, like you said, though, there is a good argument. Could Britt Baker pull off the babyface long term? I thought the promo this week was very babyface-like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can do that on a consistent basis, you could make it work because she was real with the promo. She was still like, Britt's one of them people where she'll call something out. She's not afraid to go for someone's flaws, but if she can do it in a way where you can get the compassion of the audience, then she actually would have all the ticks and all the boxes that worked. Because when she won the championship, the World Championship back in Double or Nothing, I think it was 2021 was the crowd were allowed back for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like she was the most popular act. It felt like she was like a Steve Austin coming through the curtain because she was like the heel that everybody cheered for. If she could find that way to work that tweak again, she could really be onto something, but it's whether they will do that long term.
Yeah, so she would have to be kind of that badass character that kind of stays in the gray the whole time. And she does things that seem heelish, but she still gets cheered for it. She does some things that are babyface, and she doesn't get booed for it, kind of thing. So stay in the gray area with her. I think they could work.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go though with a tradition just for the moment, because even though that's how the promos have worked, we've said that that's probably how the match will not work because Saraya obviously is the easy one to be the sympathy babyface. What avenue do you think we're going to get then? Do we think that Saraya remains the babyface, picks up the victory, Britt Baker then perhaps maybe has to go to a more vicious side maybe after this, and this where we get a more extreme stipulation going to say a winter is coming?
Yeah, that's probably where I would go with it because I don't think AEW is going to take that. It's a risk to turn her heel like in the first match in. It is a risk, and then you don't really know what you can get out of Britt going forward if you change her up too much. So I think they're probably going to go the simple, safe way. Have Saraya come in here as a babyface, most likely scratch out a win, like a gritty, reluctant win that Babyface does, getting beat up majority of the match. It may be a simpler match while she just targets her body, the neck and stuff like that. It could be a simpler match, and then you get Saraya winning, and then going from there, Britt, has to kind of change up things up and get a little bit more aggressive, more violent. And winter's coming, like you said previously on other streams, that seems like they're treating it like a really big show nowadays. So it seems likely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to compare this exactly word for word, but SummerSlam 2002, Shawn Michaels returning after a long-term injury against Triple H in that sort of it was an unsanctioned match, and after the match, Shawn picked up the victory, and Triple H afterwards went for that sort of big spot afterwards with the steel chair or the sledgehammer, or whatever it was, to injure the body part. And we thought, God, is it just one match we've got? Is she back on? Like, is Shawn back on the shelf again? And they could do that with Saraya. They could have like one match and then have where Britt Baker does a really nasty sort of chair shot on the neck or something where we know it's not happening, but it looks like it. And Saraya then doesn't wrestle till Revolution, for example, and then they can sort of up the ante again. I reckon that could be a really good way they could do that story.
Yeah, and it's simple to do because there's a legitimate injury there to target, right? It's not something made up. It's not something fabricated. It's there. So not only will that help in terms of the way it's perceived by fans and by everybody else, but it helps you get to the next point where you want to get to with the feud.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, then we've got to a point where I think we need to pick a side. How is this going to go? Is the Doctor going to represent AEW and pick up the victory, or is this going to become Saraya's house?
I'm going to go with Saraya right now. Again, there is that undertone of it feeling like WWE versus AEW, but I just think they've done it to themselves, right? The AEW's self-inflicted right here, but I think they have to go with Saraya because you can't have her come back and then lose like that. That's kind of like, having Sting lose in his first ever WWE match kind of thing, right? It's on that same, similar level. She has to win this match, Saraya does.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think that whatever happens, Saraya wins the match, whether it's by cheating, whether it's by clean. I think they'll go down the clean route on this, but judging on the promo work, I think that they may need to switch the characters up long term, or Saraya will need to become heel at some point further down the line if it's not here. But Saraya, I think, she should pick up the win on her first match back. It seems weird that she would come back and lose that match. But let's go and see what the chat has got to say. West Coast Podcast here. This is my house needs to go. Britt proved why in 2 promos. And imagine if they did about 10 promos, it would get even worse.
Yeah, it was. She needs to change that up. Yeah, try something different.
Absolutely. I don't know what she could say instead, maybe. This is my ring?
I guess, yeah. I mean, but then it's, I guess.
I don't know. We'll see. Whatever she does at the show after this, maybe it's her tunnel because Britt Baker comes out the other tunnel because they're the two different ways to come
the two separate ones, yeah.
Yeah, that could be the best way.
Even though my cousin does work at the arena that the show's going to take place, and today they were bringing in the stuff for the pay-per-view, and bringing all the stuff, and supposedly they're changing up the set for this pay-per-view. It looks kind of like industrial kind of style, similar, where it's taking place in Newark, New Jersey, so it's very industrial. So they may be going down that road and having a themed kind of set.
I like it. That sounds really good indeed. We'll have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. Maybe you can post a picture when you're in attendance so we get it before the show. That'd be awesome. C Nation says Sammy Guevara being in the RH World title match makes 0 sense because he's Chris Jericho in the JAS. Absolutely makes 0 sense. As we said, we've already covered it, but it's just in general, it's a very strange choice. C Nation also going to say, why is the AEW World Title Elimination Tournament final match not happening at Full Gear? Instead, it's happening at a Dynamite. Oh, it's happening at Dynamite now. Well, that's one match we won't be talking about then. We can talk about it still anyway later.
Yeah, I think they're just I think they're having the semi-final on at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, well, that's because of the fact that Ricky Starks was not able to have the match with Lance Archer for whatever reason. So, and maybe they realized the show's too long. Maybe that's what it is. They thought that's one match they'll drop.
Yep.
And then the final probably get some time now rather than being 5 minutes long. Nuben Cole giving a prediction for us. I'm going with Saraya because I don't want her to get injured too soon, because I don't want AEW to get into too much trouble because it will be bad for business and for the public. Do you know what? That's a very good point. I mean, obviously, there has been a lot of let's say, focus on AEW sometimes with some of the greener talent or perhaps some of the bad spots. Dutch Mantel, particularly, I've noticed on Twitter, has posted some stuff at times. It wouldn't be a good look, would it?
It would not. Yeah. The AEW is the spot where like the grizzled veterans, have a lot to say about because of the risks they take in the ring. And somebody taking this kind of risk is it's alarming at some times, but we've seen it. Edge comes back from injury. Brian Danielson's come back from injuries, from long-term injuries. And fingers crossed, they've all been okay. So hopefully that continues.
Let's hope, fingers crossed. Yeah, like you say, we hope that nothing bad will come from this. But we'll go on to the next match in the meantime anyway. And I'd tell you what, you're going to get a bit of emotion out of me on this one. I might be a bit biased for the AEW Interim Women's World Championship. Toni Storm, the Interim Women's World Champion, against Jamie Hayter. And the question I put in the description of this video, will I be a hater if Jamie doesn't win the championship? Because I've got to be honest with you, Anthony, there are times here in AEW where fans really get invested in something, really get behind someone, and then we have to wait a long time for actually something to happen from it. FTR still waiting the opportunity to win the 4th Tag Team Championships. They've been the #1 contenders, so were since April. We had a situation with Hangman Page. We had to wait a long time for him to get there. There's been so many different circumstances and examples. Is this one here? We've got Jamie Hayter. The crowd have been behind her for quite a while now. She's in a championship opportunity. Do AEW pull the trigger? Do they give it the championship? Or are they going to go the predictable avenue where Toni Storm is the interim champion, wait for the actual champion to come back, and we have to do the one-on-one of Storm versus Thunder Rosa?
This goes down that interim, you're doing down the road of the interim title, and if you should continue to do it. I think they have no choice but to give Hayter this title now, because I think the only thing that may have, you can go 2 different ways with it. Either she loses and people continue to get behind her even more, or she kind of falls into obscurity afterwards because people just kind of given up on it, because they don't want to give her the that spot. It's the interim title, so I think you could take a chance, and I think you could just give it to Jamie Hayter, right? It's because it has the tag interim, so it doesn't mean as much as if it didn't have the interim title, the interim tag to it. They can go either way, but I think you're running a risk of people stop caring about somebody if you have them lose in this spot after you've been behind them for so long.
Absolutely. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I just feel like the timing feels right here. Like, if you wait this for longer, like, there could be arguments we go with different avenues here. Storm against Thunder Rosa could be the long-term plan. Britt Baker may get jealous again, get involved and cost Hayter the match like she did at All Out. There's lots of different ways they can play this, but Jamie Hayter, like you said, yeah, maybe fans will get more invested if she loses, but I think they'd be even more invested if she won. It just feels like it's a bad idea. Like you said, the key word interim. I hate the term interim.
Yes.
Thunder Rosa has been away this is the 2nd pay-per-view now. They only have 4 of them a year. She should be vacating the championship and going for it and being the #1 contender as soon as she comes back. That's the right thing to do. I don't like the term interim. I know C Nation said it a lot earlier in the stream. It doesn't work for me. I think that it's bad luck. You move on and you come back and fight another day. But for me here, I've enjoyed Toni Storm in AEW. I think that she's had some good matches. I will say I do like that they just give a little bit of storyline detail. These two were sharing a place during the pandemic. They were locked in when everyone was locked in. Well, that was a nice little touch. Just give something of storyline to this rather than just 2 people fighting. They have obviously wrestled before in Japan and stuff previously, and so they've got a lot of chemistry. They've fought in AEW before, so I'm sure it's going to be a great match between these two.
Yep.
The problem is going to be, is it heart or is it head? What's actually going to happen here? Because my head says Toni Storm, but my heart says Jamie Hayter.
I think they need to go Jamie Hayter. I think both need to say Jamie Hayter because it's that time. I don't know. I haven't enjoyed Toni Storm's run really. And it feels like kind of the challenger feels much bigger than the champion at this point, and you kind of have to pull the trigger at that point. Like, we need to go with this person because again, you do have the kind of safety net of it being an interim championship, right? So if Jamie Hayter wins and it's not really going the way you wanted it to, then bring in the actual champion and beat her, and then you go from there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going heart overhead. I'm going Jamie Hayter because, to be fair, I may be a hater if it doesn't pull off, but do you know what? At the same time, it's what I want to see, and I think it's the right move. We need to get that energy out there, people. So if you agree with me, say it in the chat. In fact, Noob and Coke, you've listened to me. Jamie Hayter is winning and turning on Britt Baker because it's very interesting storytelling with Storm and Jamie. They were friends during the pandemic in the UK, and now they're enemies. But that could be an interesting way as well. Hayter turning on Britt. We'll have to wait and see how that would go on. Would Hayter still remain the baby face in that way? Because if people don't like Britt Baker, how would that work?
Yeah, that's the problem. I think it may be better if Britt turns on her after the match because she lost. Let's say she loses against Saraya, right? Saying that she loses against Saraya, and then her friend, or it was kind of like her lackey, right, on screen, winning the title that she wants, So there's a lot of character development there in terms of Britt Baker. She can go off the rails at that point, right? Like she lost the match against Saraya. Somebody who was her subordinate basically won the championship, so she's in a bad spot. I think that's good. It'd be good storytelling going forward.
Yeah, I certainly do as well. I think it'd be very, very good storytelling. Sinistra says, you actually put that in the description. I just looked at it. Yeah. Long-term storytelling, my friend. I did plan this one through.
Yes,
there
sir.
it is. I forgot Thunder Rosa was the AEW Women's World Champion because she's been gone for so long. That tells you everything. To be fair, if anyone did think it was interim before, not mistaken, really, is it? Sinistra says, I think Thunder Rosa is retaining the championship because she has history with Thunder Rosa as a tag team. Yes, Thunderstorm. That was a painful moment through the summer, but
Yes.
we won't be staying with that too long. But one thing that could be painful, but could be pleasure, I'm going to find out from Anthony in a minute with our next match. We're going to talk about Sting and Darby Allin against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I mean, to be fair, some people say that they compare AEW to TNA from time to time, the old style TNA. It's hard not to when you look at that match. It's only Darby that's not been in the old school TNA. But in 2022, did you think you'd be going to see Jeff Jarrett live on the pay-per-view?
No, and this feels this feels like what people crap on WWE for doing, kind of stuff like this, right? Having these old timers be out there, part timers and stuff like that. I think it was a tremendous signing to have Jarrett there, but more of a backstage stuff like that because he's run wrestling companies successfully and stuff like that. And I think I've brought this up a lot. I think Darby needs to stay away from Sting, and the father-son relationship needs to end already. It's been going on for way too long. And I think the minds of Sting and the mind of Jeff Jarrett are better utilized backstage, not on TV.
I kind of agree with you. I feel it's getting to that point. Look, we always get the pop. That's nice.
Yep.
It's nice to see Sting from time to time. Tony Giovanni go, it's Sting. I like that with the occasion. Jeff Jarrett coming out. Don't get me wrong. I was quite pleased to see him on screen there. I don't mind the Jeff Jarrett promo. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know why. Yeah. A lot of people give him a lot of crap. And I will say that he does do a fairly decent promo, in my opinion. I do like when he shouts a good old slap nuts. There is an argument. He probably has become what he said in WCW. It'll come back to me. I've been watching a lot of it recently in the year 2000. What was it? And also a generational snap nuts or something like that. And someone that's passed over the hill, it feels like he may have become that himself. But still, I agree with you. Backstage is where they're going to do a lot of their best work and give the influence to the younger talent, stuff like that. We've seen the influence of Sting and Darby Allin, but I need to see that have a direction go somewhere. They just have a match now on a show, and it's just like it's the Sting and Darby match, where Darby was like one of your pillars that was going up the ladder to be like this important guy. He now was just in throwaway matches every single show. Yes. I don't remember the last big match he was involved in.
Yeah, he hasn't really felt important whatsoever.
No, he's really fell down the pecking order. And look, the Jay Lethal stuff for me hasn't really connected either recently in AEW. I'm not going to lie to you with the Sanjay Dutt and the Satnam Singh stuff. I don't know. I find myself, my eyes go to my phone when those matches are on. He's a great wrestler, but I don't know, the character work, it's just not connecting.
It's not. It definitely isn't. And, you could say that. I mean, I could say that I've enjoyed Jay Lethal more when he's done the impression stuff, right? Like that was the most fun. I was there live when he at the Garden when he was there for the ROH 10 on the New Japan show. That was a good stuff. I've met him in person. Very nice guy, everything like that. But it's just I don't know what it is. He just never really felt like he's ever gotten to that level where I kind of thought he probably could have. And in AW, you get the same feeling. Plus, he feels like if he has that stigma of like he feeling like an ROH guy in AEW, so he feels less important.
Yeah, exactly. He's had that sort of brushed on him, so therefore it's kind of like he needs to be on Final Battle really after 2 shows. Seems a bit harsh, doesn't it? But hey, we've got to be honest with how we feel. But let's give our feelings then. Jeff Jarrett, of course, the last Outlaw is coming. This is his first match in AEW. But obviously the father and son duo of Sting and Darby are undefeated as a tag team. How is this going to go down?
I think Lethal and Jarrett have to win because I feel like they have more planned for Jarrett than they do have for Darby and Sting. So go with what you have more planned with. Now, I'd be fine with Jarrett being a managerial person and hitting people with guitars every once in a while, cutting a promo here and there. That's fine. Yeah. The in-ring stuff, like having matches shouldn't be happening because this is just the team that took on Ric Flair in his last match, right? So like you don't really need to have them coming in here to take on another old guy after they just, had one against Ric Flair. So I think, but they probably should get the win here because I feel like they have more planned for at least Jeff Jarrett than they do have for Sting or Darby.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I think it's a head thing. I'm going to go with Sting and Darby as the prediction, but I agree with you. I think that with Jarrett, they just need to give a bit more of what this idea is going to be.
Mhm.
I want to see what that could be. I think that there actually could be some potential with this. If, like you said, he was in a managerial role, I think that'd be quite cool to see with him doing that. I want to know what the message is. Why he's the last outlaw in AEW as well? I don't quite get why he's doing that, but maybe we'll learn more as we go along. And maybe I want Jarrett and Lethal to win, but I'm going to go for Sting and Darby to pick up the W. And yeah, the old generational slapnuts. That's what I remember now in my head for being for Jeff Jarrett. There it is. Yeah, it was the glorious rivalry for Halloween Havoc 2000 with him and Sting, where there was the 5 different Sting characters all playing through his career. Yeah, it's a fun watch.
It's WCW.
It is indeed. It's the year 2000 WCW.
Yeah.
Sting is going to finally lose his first match in AEW, says C Nation Dog. It would be good if that's the case. He's been there for like nearly 2 years, so it does feel like time is there. Sting and Darby need to break up. Sting is holding Darby back as a singles wrestler. I think we would agree with that. And Darby's singles record is 9 wins and 8 losses. I mean, that isn't your pillar, is it?
No, definitely not. And I agree. I think Sting is holding him back, not purposefully, but it's just because it feels like, he's getting beat up. I got to call my dad. That's what it feels like.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So that's what is going on with these days. Sting and Darby winning because AEW is slowly turning into WCW 2000. That's a bit far at the moment. I could say I'm watching it right now. TNA Impact in the 2000s that I haven't seen, so I can't make that comparison there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it's going to go down. And he thinks Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal win because it's Jeff Jarrett's debut match in AEW, which kind of in a way would make sense. Well, we'll move on to the next match indeed, and we've been mentioning ROH a little bit in the stream. We'll do it one more time because we've got the TNT Championship and AEW title of Wardlow going against the ROH World TV Champion Samoa Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs in a meaty triple threat match. We're going to see big men throwing around big men, and to be fair, in a way, I'm looking forward to it. It seems really exciting, but I'm going to say my piece very, very quickly. Powerhouse Hobbs has been someone that was building a match with Wardlow. I was really looking forward to that singles match, but we've had to get Joe on the card somewhere, and I have a feeling that Joe and Wardlow will be the long-term direction story of this story, which makes me think Hobbs is eating the pin here.
Yes, I have to agree. It's definitely a meaty match. This is a meaty one, like you said. But I agree. I do. I think Hobbs. I think they put Joe in here because they didn't want somebody else taking the fall, so they just wanted Hobbs to take the fall. So they put him in there for that reason alone. I don't think they believe in Hobbs at this point to win that title. And TNT title is like you win it, and I don't know, the runs haven't been that great with that title, and you have Joe turning on Wardlow. It's just, it's not really the best storyline I've seen. And the TNT title has that kind of thing going for it where it doesn't really have the best storylines. And I agree. I think Hobbs is there to take the pin.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's very weird that Ward Joe broke up as well, because like Wardlow was just like, I'm going to win every title, when Joe was like, no, you're not. I'm going to turn on you now. It's just like, that all it took. Like, you guys have been dominating each other. I thought they would end up in the tag team division the way it was going, but I feel that's going to be a match you're going to get a final battle. I think you're going to get champion versus champion, title for title. That's what I'm going to predict for final battle. It will be Joe versus Wardlow.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I agree with it because Hobbs feels like the odd man out. He's the only guy who doesn't have a title. He doesn't feel as important, I think, in terms when you look at the 3 members of this match, the 3 individuals, he seems like the odd man out and kind of not at the same level as the other 2 guys. And yeah, because you have the ROH title involved in there as well. So it makes sense that it seems like this is just the means to an end to get to final battle.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, I'm a big fan of Hobbs, by the way. I think he's got a heck of a spine buster. He's improving a lot. I just don't think it's his time to win the title here. But I had a prediction, and I've changed it on this stream as we're talking about it now. I thought originally Wardlow was going to retain here, but I'm going to predict Samoa Joe to win the title, because my question for you that will follow up with that is, I wonder if Wardlow will win the title back at Final Battle. Yes, it's a hot potato, but to get a bit of steam back into Wardlow because it's been fading, is that the right thing to do to get him to win the titles back at Final Battle?
It's one of those things because you don't know the direction ROH is going to head, right? So you don't really know the finality of ROH, where they're going to end up, how's it going to be presented going forward. So maybe you could do a hot potato situation there because, you haven't, come out and said exactly what your plans are for ROH, so you can get away with it. And if you just want to have a title change hands on the show in this match, then you could go with it. But I think Wardlow's going to retain, to be honest. I think we're just going to be in a holding pattern to Final Battle.
It's going to be interesting. I thought Wardlow, but I don't know. A bit of me feels like Joe becoming the double champion's like, no, I've won both belts now. And just to progress that story a bit longer. So I'm going to go for Joe. Last minute change.
Unless we can get surprised Hobbs wins and they want to put Wardlow. I don't think they want to do Wardlow ROH, right? I don't think they want to saddle him in ROH. I think they would rather have Hobbs go to ROH than rather Wardlow go over there.
That could be true indeed there. Be interesting. It's going to be a fun match either way, so let's see how it's going to happen. But Noob says, Ubermen destroying each other is hype. Absolutely. Mojo Rawley hype. We're going to stay hyped on that one. Absolutely indeed there. We've got Sination says, I wish the AWTT title triple threat match was for the AWTT Championship and the RHTV Championship. Should it have been an argument that both titles should have been on the line?
Yeah, you could have done that. That'd have been totally plausible and fine because it still gets you to Final Battle anyways, right? Because that person's ever holding the ROH title is still going to be there regardless. And if you want to have a double champion situation at there, you could just do it that way too. Yeah.
It's a good compelling argument. I think the reason why I've gone for it is because I predict to be on Final Battle, both belts on the line. Either that or that's when they'll do just Wardlow versus Joe, and it's Joe's title on the line. It'd be one way or the other. Why did AEW add so many matches to the pay-per-view on the go-home show? It's because it's what they do. That's usually what they do, don't they? They think, there's not enough matches here. We need to add some more. So that's what I think. That's what they do. And also, what was the point of Samoa Joe and Wardlow tag team? They were just tag team for like 2 months. What was AEW's end goal? The rivalry, I guess, here starting now.
Well, it's kind of like when Jarek Y2AJ that tag team, kind of like that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there we go. There's a bit of WWE reference in there as well. And Richard's back here with another bit of a troll comment there with us now. That's what he wants. He wants Colt Cabana turning on Danielson and Claudio. Somehow I don't see it, but there you go. We'll move on next to something that we definitely will see. And AEW are pretty good at them so far.
Yeah.
It's a solid steel cage match. That's right. We've got Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus with Christian Cage that we're there in a cast at ringside. But usually with AW cage matches, no one gets involved. They have actually stuck where people stay outside of the match. So will this remain one-on-one?
I think so. Because, for all intents and purposes, that's the point of the match, right? Is to be them locked in the steel cage. The point of the match, the purpose of the cage is obviously to beat each other up, to beat the hell out of each other, but also to keep everybody out. So in that same going forward, that makes total sense to keep it that way, because it's logically makes sense and it supports the aura of the match. So I think it'll stay one-on-one.
I think so as well. I think that they will keep to. I think Christian will try.
Yeah,
he might get something in the ring like a chair, but I think it will backfire.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you kind of want to see Jungle Boy get his hands on him, but save that for the after the match, right? Like that's at the end of the match is when you see Jungle Boy get his hands on Christian and do something to him.
Absolutely, I would agree with you there. I think that they need to separate this rivalry for me. I think it's past its peak now.
Yes, it's definitely gone on too long.
Yeah, because how long's Christian out for?
I don't know. I think it's got to be at least 4 to 6 months. I would say.
That's a long time still before he would come back in. So yeah, we'll have to see how it'll play out. But going into prediction, Luchasaurus has been quite dominant as a heel. He's been almost like a Kane-esque kind of character. Does he remain dominant here and get the victory? Does Jungle Boy finally get some actual momentum on his side again?
I think Jungle Boy gets the win, but I think it's barely. I think there's going to be huge spots in this match where Jungle Boy is getting tossed around by Junglesaurus to keep Junglesaurus looking extremely strong and like a monster, like a Kane type, like you said, and be taken seriously in that role. Because remember, again, his name is Luchasaurus, right? Like, so you can only take it so seriously, but you want to present him in a way that he can continue on to be a monster heel going forward. But you want Jungle Boy to get that dub, right? So he can kind of get back in the swing of things, because he was always one of those guys who felt like just a massive star waiting in the wings. Like as the years went on, he was going to continue to ascend up and get to that level of being the face of the company. And I think you have to get him a win here to kind of keep that momentum going and keep him on that same trajectory.
I would agree with you 100%. Jungle Boy picking up the victory. I'm hoping he gets a big spot as well to pick up the victory, like we've seen. Like the Lucha Bros got really over against the Young Bucks in the cage.
Yeah,
Cody and Ward. Like we need a big spot there, because Jungle Boy, another pillar, kind of lost the momentum a little bit over this summer. So I'd like to see him get the momentum back. Perhaps maybe we can get into a mid-card championship situation. Maybe an Atlantic Championship title shot at this moment would be a fitting one, since we don't know what's going on. Well, with the TNT situation here, that's going to seems to be wrapped up for a bit.
It's that Atlantic title. It's a funny title. It's really is. It's like it feels just super throwaway. I mean, I guess you give it to him, maybe try to establish it at something, right? Like if you give the Jungle Boy, try to establish the title as something somewhat important, right? Maybe you could do that.
Hopefully, that's what I'd like to see happen with it. But we do think Jungle Boy either way. We've got Sination that says, think Jungle Boy Jack Perry will win because he has taken one loss to Christian Cage and one loss to Luchasaurus. Yeah, it means then it's time for him to get the victory back. Some good old fashioned 50-50 booking. Noob, the comment went up and down there. If there's an escape option for this match, Jungle Boy Jack Perry is winning. They don't usually have the escape option in AEW, do they?
No, that's a very WWE thing, right? So, I agree with that, right? Because it would play into more of like him barely making it out from the monster inside the cage. It works well.
Are you a fan of Escape the Cage from cage matches?
It kind of defeats the purpose of the cage, right? Because the cage is supposed to keep everybody in and everybody out. So then you have to escape to win. I think you get more emotion out of it if you pin in the ring rather than escaping it.
I just like the buzz, or certainly did growing up when people were on top of the cage, you know. And
Yes.
even the idea as well. I know a few people thought it was a bit hokey, but I mean, this is what it was like in the 80s and 90s for every cage match. Drew McIntyre climbed over one side, someone trying to go through the door, and then it's the race who gets to where first. You
Yeah.
know, does the heel get to the floor first, or does the babyface? So I kind of like the dynamics of the escape the cage, but I don't think AEW does it. So I think Jungle Boy Jack Perry probably does a big spot to get it. Maybe jumps off of the cage to land on Luchasaurus, perhaps in ring. Maybe that could be a way they could do it.
Well, when you have the escape option, right, you can, if done correctly, it can work, but it also gives you logically a reason to go on top of the cage, right? Because if you don't have that option to win, why are you going up there to begin with, right? Because it
Yeah.
seems extremely dangerous. If you're looking at it from a logical point of view, it gives you a reason to go up there.
Absolutely. I've left logic completely out of wrestling for at least 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from though.
Uh,
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Sinisha says, I like escaping the cage option because you can protect someone and it's entertaining to see if they will escape. Yeah, I mean, obviously Luchasaurus then wouldn't be pinned, so that would perhaps protect him in defeat, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I mean, you could go that same like Valentine's Day Massacre, 99 kind of ending where he gets thrown on towards the cage and it breaks and that's how he ends up winning kind of thing, right? Like how
Mm.
it all happened to Austin. You can go that route too but it all, hinges on the fact that if they're escaping, they're going to let it allow it to be part of the match. Yeah.
That's a very good idea, and I like you brought that up there from St. Valentine's Day Massacre because that's I could see Christian in the background getting really angry as well
Yes,
with the idea of the
exactly.
cake. That would be beautiful, wouldn't it? So yeah, I like that idea there. We'll briefly talk about it then. The World Title Eliminator Tournament. Now, obviously, this is how it started. We know that Ethan Page is in the final. Ricky Starks and Archer needs to happen. The winner takes on Brian Cage. So let's be honest, the final is going to be Ricky Starks versus Ethan Page. Who do we have winning?
I think it has to be Ricky Starks, right? Because he felt like he had like a lot of momentum coming out, going into that feud with Hobbs and the impressionate promo that he had about his injury, everything like that. Felt like he was gonna go somewhere, and he has the most charisma to everybody in here. Brian Cage is like one of the most misutilized guys AEW's had ever. Came in, shotgun to a big spot, then fell off a cliff after that and disappeared. So yeah, I think it has to be him. Ethan Page seems like that guy who's has the old trope of he's a hell of a hand, so he's just there to kind of have matches and stuff like that, but never really do anything of super importance.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I feel that originally I thought Ethan Page was my pick to win this, but I do feel that judging of what we're going to talk about very shortly, I think he'll be the runner-up in this tournament. I think Ricky Starks needs a big breakout moment. It's time for Starks to get a moment, and I think that either way, I mean, like it's going to be interesting to see what it would lead to. You can do face versus face, heel versus heel, face versus heel, however you want to do it. And I think Starks would work really, really well in a babyface role going for a world title in AEW. And plus, he's on the London graphic that they're doing now for the AEW
Oh, the
tour next
London
year.
show.
So that makes it seem like he's going to be a big deal going forward. So I imagine he'll get a world title shot. Winter is coming. So yeah, I'm going to go for Ricky Starks as
Yep.
well. C Nation here says it'd be cool to see Ethan Page as AEW World Champion and Josh Alexander's Impact World Champion, but it won't happen. Unfortunately for you, C Nation, and I would say, unfortunately, in general, those last four words are the key of that sentence. It does go on to say as well that he thinks, though, that Ethan Page will win the tournament, though, because MJF is feuding with the firm right now, and Ethan Page is in the firm.
Continuity, yeah, I mean, that's true.
It does work for continuity, but that leads us nicely then onto the main event.
Sure.
AEW World Championship, the champion. I would do it in Justin Roberts style, but my throat is playing up. Jon Moxley taking on the one, the only MJF, the guy who was off for the entire of the summer. Someone who was, calling Tony Khan an effing mark. Someone who took his ball and went home, but was given the opportunity, eventually agreed to terms to come back. He entered as the casino ladder match. He was the mystery entrant. He came out as the devil. You could see who he was through the mask, but still, it was great fun anyway. Jon Moxley said it was the worst ending notable ladder match he'd ever seen. Was it the worst you've ever seen?
Yeah, it's up there. It's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad, to be fair. I mean, the crowd was very silent watching that. They didn't know what to think, did they?
Yeah.
But at the same time, anyway, it came through that MJF, of course, was that he was the devil. I like the way that was presented and making people believe that the devil didn't exist. I like that storyline, that continuity. We'll come back to that shortly. Then we've had the idea of MJF with William Regal, that sort of, promo of how he wanted to make it and how Regal didn't believe in him, and now he's had to prove himself to get to the point he is now. And Regal was still challenging. You've still got a long way to go, Sunshine. That's just the Regal methods and how we've been teased with that stuff, to the point that MJF, usually being that cocky heel that would just do what he does to get the championship by any means necessary, he's called his chip, but he's called it for the main event of this show. His hometown, by the way, which of course leads to another question immediately, is going to be the babyface you'll be cheering for here.
Yes, I think everybody's going to be. The crowd is not going to be split. I don't think. I think everybody there is going to be in, soundly in MJF's corner, right? Soundly in MJF's corner. And it's surprising for that big of a heel to have that kind of a following. It's definitely not normal in terms of wrestling. But yeah, we've speculated a lot about this. Both me and you, both me and Jonesy. William Regal is going to play such an intricate role in this match. And I think he seems to be the deciding factor in this match, if I'm not mistaken, right? He just seems to be like, he's going to be the one driving a wedge somewhere in this match, and he's going to be involved in the finish of this match.
I think he could be as well. And obviously the Firm have their role in this match as well. Obviously the Firm helps MJF win that ladder match to begin with, but MJF said now, don't get involved anymore. I need to prove I can do this on my own. I don't need the diamond ring, he said to William Regal. Don't need that. Like you always use your brass knuckles. I don't need the ring. I can win this match on my own. I can win it clean, I think was his way of saying it. The Firm, as has been involved, he's told them not to get involved. They continue to get involved. Led to a beatdown on Jon Moxley. MJF decided to do the babyface thing. I'm going to make the save. He then gets put through a table, written off TV for a couple of weeks. He's come back this week, and this is why I find a lot of it's fascinating. Yes, there was a bit of a botch where I almost had to check with you, Anthony. Is it Saturday or Sunday, this show? Saturday. Yeah, obviously Jon Moxley doing the butcher of the lineup. Someone clearly looking forward to his vacation when he gets it. But at the same time, I do think everything else here ticks a lot of boxes. I've seen a bit of mixed reaction online with regards to the segment that we had yesterday on AEW, but it played every bit of note storyline. The Firm beat down Jon Moxley and William Regal. The first question, where is the Blackpool Combat Club? No one came to protect William Regal. That group is definitely in trouble. I mentioned this earlier in the video, and you mentioned it as well. The Blackpool Combat Club, I do think, are going to be no more in the very near future, because it's been proven here. They're not even looking out for the world champion. They're not even looking out for their mentor. It took MJF to come down. But of course, when MJF came down, how perfect was his beatdown? They sold it so easily to beat 5 guys with like one move each. And the thing that really had me laughing of all of it was the way that MJF could just poke someone in the eye, kick him in the balls. It was just still so. It was like watching like an old Batman from the 70s. You saw like the big powers coming on the screen and boom and bam. It was kind of like that sort of slapstick kind of actions that took place. It played into the narrative perfectly, because something I spoke to you about on the Wrestling Report a couple of weeks ago could be coming to fruition. I think the Firm are in MJF's back pocket. I don't think MJF is the babyface. I think he is the heel, because as we explained on that show as well, for those who haven't seen that show, can hear it here now. Bama Davey was on the channel very, very recently, the Bama Chatter Wrestling podcast. He's explained how the MJF thing, he said he's proving he's going to be the devil. He mentioned that on the promo again last night. Number one rule is to prove that, he never existed. But number 2 is to make everyone believe he was a good guy.
Yes.
He's made everyone believe he's a good guy. He's a bad guy, really. And he's played everybody, because he paid off the Firm one more time to do it. And it's shown here because he was off TV. He's been wrestling up for a couple of weeks. He had one promo in a studio somewhere on a radio station. It come to a point afterwards where now he's come back. The Firm have just fallen at his feet. They've made it look so easy. I know the Firm are worthless anyway. You're trying to build Ethan Page up. He went down so easily. He then squared it in William Regal's eyes. He said again, I don't need this to win. He may not need it to win, But then again, the same thing with Jon Moxley, proving he's the devil, using a CM Punk type line in the promo as well of when this was meant to be. It's all coming into full circle. And I do believe that MJF is going to be the heel that wins this match. And whether it's happening during the match or after the match, I think William Regal is turning on Jon Moxley and aligning with MJF. That's what I believe. Because MJF doesn't need the diamond ring, because Regal's got the brass knuckles if he wants to choose to use them.
I totally agree. And yeah, so, in the typical sense, when you talk about the devil and what he's designed to do is to, kind of shake your faith, right? And appear to be somebody who is righteous and who is in the right, and he's just got a bad rap, right? Everybody just lies about him. So that's exactly what he's doing. He's telling you that, he doesn't need this, he doesn't need that. He's using babyface tropes to get that message across that he may be a good guy, like he may be a good guy in all this. But as the devil works, he seduces you into thinking that, and then you trust him, and then that's where he takes advantage of you, right? So that's exactly what he's doing in this. And when it may come down to the end, he may say, like, I don't need any of that stuff to do it, but in the end he may use all of it anyways and just say, you never trust the devil or something like that, right? And in that sense, you'll get the firm helping him, and you'll get William Regal double crossing Moxley and joining MJF, and then it comes full circle. It's like you could just say at the end, Regal says, "I always knew you could do it." Right? Because you play up the email stuff and everything like that. Yeah. I always knew you could do it on embracing the ring. They're both chuckling and laughing because they're both very good at being evil. Right? Both of them are extremely good, MJF and William Regal, at being evil. And it's very well put together. If I had to say something, it's very well put together. I love the religious undertones. That's very well done and stuff like that. But yeah, he's basically seducing you into thinking that he's something that he isn't.
Absolutely. Is there a case then? Because this is where I'm going to start going with a really weird question now. So forgive the direction we're going here. WrestleMania 17 vibes, Austin in Texas turning heel almost. I mean, Phil New Jersey are going to just lap this up and love it. They're all going to cheer like crazy that MJF is not this good guy after all. He's the devil. We are the devil worshippers here in New Jersey. Is it going to be a case where it's a big eruption that Regal, if he was to turn heel, and MJF has that crowning moment as the bad guy rather than the baby face?
Yes. Now it's okay. So when you bring up WrestleMania 17, right? He got Austin still got a pop no matter what, right? Because it was Texas. But it was a turn that shouldn't have happened, right? If you hindsight. But this is the turn that should never happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen. He stays a heel. So I think people will be cheering that more than anything else. Like the fact that he's staying a heel and people love him. I think there's gonna be a lot of like shock that when Regal does turn on on Moxley, if he does, and then the cheering after that when Moxley gets pinned. I think it's going to be eruption. Title. Not only do you get the pop of just a title change, but then the crowning moment of a fan favorite, even though he's a bastard.
Absolutely. Could there be a moment where MJF wins, and then at the end of the match we see William Regal like almost just if William Regal doesn't get involved at the end of the match, I know, but perhaps after the match could like appreciate MJF. And then looks at Moxley after he's lost and then hits him with the brass knuckles to solidify the turn after the match.
Yeah, both achieve the same thing, right? It's just, do you want a clean finish or do you want a sloppy finish, right? And I think, if you want to go for a clean finish, you can. But is that really MJF style? Like, do you want to change him up a little bit and kind of give him something different, a little bit of a different take on it? Like, oh, he beat him clean, he didn't need anything, and then you do the turn afterwards. I think the turns play a little bit better when they're during match instead of post match.
I agree with you. I want it during the match rather than post. I think it's the right way to do it. So I think we're both in agreement. MJF, the crowning moment is finally here. It's finally coming. But the last question, just go before the chat. If it was to be just pure babyface, could MJF pull it off?
I never like to say like no, they can't, right? Because he's extremely gifted gab and everything like that. I just think he's Ric Flair, and Ric Flair, when he's done babyface, he just never really works that well. It is just the guy is just he's more popular as a heel, and I think that turn over time hurts him. And I don't think it works that well. So I always compare him to Flair in that aspect, that he's too much of a heel to ever be a productive and over a good guy.
Do you know what? I kind of agree with you. And the things I think he could make a babyface work, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. The guy is phenomenal in his role. I don't think it needs to change personally. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. C Nation got 3 comments here for us, and we'll wrap up things with the stream. It says, what was the point of MJF being with the firm to have them break up? AEW makes no sense sometimes. We hopefully have made some sense of that comment in the structure we've had there. But will that all happen? Is just what we believe will happen. So we'll have to wait and see if that will be how it will go down. What do you think is AEW's best faction? C Nation asks.
I mean, I guess the Jericho Appreciation Society, I guess, but it's not by much. I mean, I don't really think any of the factions are all that great. If the Elite was like full Elite kind of Bullet Club-esque, that probably, by de facto would be the best one. But I guess JAS.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard at the moment because I'm trying to think like who's got the momentum at the minute. Probably JS probably has the most momentum.
Yeah.
Elite probably will be when they come back again because it will be obviously Hangman Page. Sorry, it will be Kenny and the Bucks. I hope Hangman Page makes a speedy recovery. By the way, obviously he's been off for quite a while now, which is why he's not on this show. Yeah, I mean, Best Friends for me and Orange Cassidy doesn't work as well as it used to. So House of Black, I think when they come back can have the potential, but they need the wins. So yeah, Death Triangle will be there. But I think you've got the best 2 trios anyway at the moment like that. But as factions, yeah, probably JAS for me as well. But we asked what the teasing of the breakup with Garcia and JS was pointless. What was the point? It was just to get us gripped, wasn't it, at the time? And then they chose to just hurt us in the end anyway. Kind of what we think happened with MJF here.
Yeah, no, I agree. It kind of was what it was. It kind of give us a tease, like, oh, these guys are pure wrestlers, stuff like that. This is cool, but then just revert back to what was working before.
Absolutely, what brought it to the dance. And MJF is a better heel, but he can be a better face, but have the same character in his opinion. Yeah, in his opinion. But I mean, to be fair, yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, you can have that sort of what we said there, the heel tactics, but with the way where you can connect with the audience is certainly a way going forward. He couldn't go into like a squeaky clean baby face that just wouldn't work. But he's so dastardly, and he keeps saying he's the devil, and we think there's a reason he is saying he is the devil. Last comment, then we'll wrap things up here today. The Elite are a faction because you need 3 or more members in the faction. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree. We're just going there with the JS as the one probably at the moment because Elite haven't been on screens for a while, but they could probably quickly take that mantle by winning this Saturday. Almost said Sunday there. I almost did the Moxley. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it will play out. And like we said at the start of the stream, what will be the direction for them when they've returned? Because that for me is more interesting than if they win the trios titles or not. But before we wrap things up, Anthony, is there anything you'd like to add here to the stream before we close things off?
No, it's gonna be a fun show. Like I said, I'll be there live. It's gonna be a ton of fun, and it's gonna be interesting to see how the crowd reacts to certain things. Because the tri-state area crowd is a little bit different from everywhere else in the states, how they react to certain things. But I'm just, God willing, the devil wins. It's funny to say that, right? God willing, the devil actually wins his title, and he's actually on top of the company because I think that's what they need. Like I said in the beginning of the stream, I think this is that point. It's a transition period for AEW. They're coming off of all the bad stuff that happened, it all out, and everything post that. And this is the moment where they're kind of change things up and get back to like a level where they were at previously.
Absolutely. And I think one other point MJF just made quickly as well, he did say every defining moment he's had, someone's upstaged him. And I love that as well. And, with All Out and other things he said previously. I think it was the match he had against Moxley last time. He said Matt Hardy decided to make a stupid fall. He said at the time, which of course was very frightening at the time. But he said that. He's made points with those things. So this will be his actual defining moment where no one can actually take it away from him. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very special. It's the right place. And then we've got the battle then of 2024. That storyline could be a lot of fun of who can get the belt off of him. Will he leave with the title? How's it going to be? Is he going to turn to someone that's going to say EW sucks all the time unless he's there and stuff like that? Will he become like a Roman? So I'm going to be the part-time champion, turn up when I want. There's so many different avenues you can go down with that storyline. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Anthony, this stream for me has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on it. It's been great to have you here.
I appreciate it, Steve. Always great having you, being on your channel, having you on my channel, all that stuff like that. I do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the show. It'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Whereabouts will you be sitting, if you don't mind me asking? Will we find you on telly?
No, my cousin works at the place, so we're trying to get a hookup and get a little bit closer. But as of right now, we're in one of the suites.
Oh, okay, nice. Well, still, it's a very nice spot to be in. Being in a suite, absolutely. Wouldn't say no to a suite myself. I won't lie to you. But I hope you have an amazing time at the show. I hope it's an awesome night. I hope it's as for anyone when you go to these shows, it must be an exciting buzz just to see all the superstars that you're going to get to see.
Yeah, tons of fun. Yeah, just to know that you're going to see that, you may get a couple surprises like AEW likes to do.
Absolutely. Do you reckon there'll be any surprises? Last question.
It's just like it's like, who would it be? You always assume that they're gonna do something, but it's just like, who would it? Is Adam Cole coming back? Is he cleared to come back for competition stuff? Like, maybe you can have him come out and come face to face whoever wins the title at the end. Yeah, I don't really know, because there's not really many people that kind of jump off the page to think like this guy's gonna show up here.
Absolutely. Adam Cole going back with the Elite at some point could be fun as well.
That could
Maybe
be
we
too,
could
yeah.
revisit. That could be interesting. But that's going to be us anyway, wrapping things up. Just to say, everyone, go and check out Rated R For Rasslin as well. The link is in the description of this video. You can go and check out a video that I was on there a couple of weeks ago for the Wrestling Report. Well, I don't remember which number episode it was, but I will put that in the link in the description as well for anyone who wants to go and check that out. But I'll say, fantastic content. Make sure to go and check it out. If you've enjoyed this video as well, then please do consider hitting that like button. It does help with the algorithm here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here as well. If you're watching on delay, drop your predictions in the comments below. And if you're watching now as well, drop a comment after the video as well. It does help with the algorithms, like I say, the boring stuff on YouTube, but it helps grow the channel, and the support really, really goes a long way, and it's always really appreciated. But that's all from us today. Thanks for watching. Take care. Look after yourselves. Enjoy Full Gear. And yeah, I'll see you very, very soon. Take care. Thanks for watching.